Imagine you're standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The waves crash around you, and the horizon stretches infinitely in front. This ocean represents your life. The turbulent emotions, the pain of loss, the struggle against desires, and the deep currents of uncertainty that pull at you. Now, picture this. What if the way to navigate this ocean isn't through force or resistance, but through stillness and awareness? This is the heart of Zen. Today, we'll dive deep into how Zen Buddhism approaches the issue of suffering, particularly in light of the Four Noble Truths. What makes Zen's response unique? And how does it transform our understanding of suffering in a way that is both ancient and profoundly relevant to our modern lives? Welcome to the unfolding journey, where we explore spiritual paths, philosophical insights, and practical wisdom to help guide your journey through life. If you're curious about how ancient traditions like Zen Buddhism can illuminate the struggles we face today, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to join us on this unfolding exploration of the mind, spirit, and the way forward. Before we dive into Zen specifically, let's first recall the foundational teachings of Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths. These are the core principles that Buddha shared after his awakening, and they form the backbone of nearly all Buddhist traditions. The truth of suffering, dukkha suffering, is an inherent part of life. It manifests in many forms: physical pain, emotional distress, dissatisfaction, and the constant impermanence of all things. The truth of the origin of suffering, samadaya, the cause of suffering is attachment or craving, tanha, our desire for things to be a certain way or our resistance to how things are. We seek permanence in an impermanent world, and this leads to suffering. The truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha, if craving and attachment are the cause of suffering, then the cessation of suffering comes through the elimination of craving. This leads to nirvana, complete freedom from suffering. The truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, magga, the way out of suffering, is the Noble Eightfold Path, which consists of ethical conduct, meditation, and wisdom. This path leads to the cultivation of right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These Four Noble Truths present a framework that resonates deeply with many. Suffering is real, and there is a clear way out. Zen Buddhism, as one of the many branches of Buddhism, embraces these truths, but its approach to suffering takes a distinctive path. Zen does not reject the Four Noble Truths. Rather, it brings a unique perspective on how to experience and transcend suffering. The Zen approach is rooted in direct experience, what we might call experiencing suffering as it is. In Zen, the focus is not on intellectualizing suffering or trying to understand it purely through concepts, but on seeing it firsthand through meditation and mindfulness. Zen teaches that suffering arises from our clinging to thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. But rather than trying to eliminate these things through philosophical reflection or gradual transformation, as seen in other Buddhist schools, Zen emphasizes experiencing them fully in the present moment. The idea is that when we stop resisting suffering, when we stop clinging to the hope of avoiding it, we can see the impermanence and fluidity of our experiences. This shift in perception allows suffering to lose its grip on us. A key teaching in Zen, and one that resonates deeply with the broader Mahayana Buddhist tradition, is the concept of emptiness, sunyata. In Zen, suffering is seen as directly related to our attachment to a false sense of self, or the ego. The suffering we experience arises because we cling to the illusion of a separate, permanent self that is distinct from the world around us. Zen meditation, or zazen, is the practice that helps to dismantle this illusion of self. By sitting in stillness and observing the mind, Zen practitioners begin to realize that the self is not an unchanging, solid entity. Rather, it is a collection of constantly changing thoughts, sensations, and experiences. This insight, known as no-self or annotment, is key to Zen's understanding of suffering. Once we recognize the impermanence of the self and the interconnectedness of all things, suffering loses its sting. This doesn't mean that suffering disappears, but rather that we stop reacting to it in the same way. We stop clinging to the idea that we should be free of suffering, and instead, we accept it as part of the flow of life. In the words of the Zen master Shunryu Suzuki, suffering is nothing more than a part of life. It is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be embraced. One of the most intriguing aspects of Zen is the idea of non-action, Wu Wei in Chinese, Mu in Japanese. In contrast to many other spiritual paths that emphasize specific actions to alleviate suffering, whether it's accumulating merit, performing rituals, or engaging in elaborate practices, Zen teaches that the solution to suffering may lie in the absence of effort. Zen masters often say that we must learn to let go of our striving. This does not mean becoming passive or indifferent to life's challenges, but rather letting go of the internal struggle that we create through attachment to outcomes. By embracing non-action, Zen points to the natural state of mind, where suffering does not arise from the friction between our desires and the world as it is. This is the paradox at the heart of Zen. By doing less, we actually experience more peace. When we let go of the need to fix ourselves or our circumstances, we open ourselves to the present moment as it is, both painful and beautiful. The concept of non-action is not about passivity. It's about being present in the moment without the internal battle that often causes suffering. By stopping the cycle of craving and aversion, Zen offers an immediate path to freedom. Another distinctive aspect of Zen is the use of koans, short, paradoxical stories or riddles designed to break through ordinary thinking and force the practitioner into direct experience of reality. These koans challenge the mind's habitual ways of reasoning and push the practitioner into a state of deep questioning and insight. A classic example of a Zen koan is, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" On the surface, this question is nonsensical, yet it points to the limits of conceptual thinking. The purpose of the koan is to transcend ordinary logic and experience a direct, non-conceptual realization of truth. The paradoxes within koans help the practitioner to directly confront the nature of suffering. By breaking down the ordinary way we relate to pain and pleasure, koans invite us to experience them in a new light, without attachment, without judgment, and without expectation. In this way, Zen offers a radical shift in how we approach suffering. Instead of trying to escape or transcend it, we come to see it as it truly is. While meditation and koans are central to Zen practice, one of its most distinctive features is its focus on everyday life as the primary arena for spiritual practice. In Zen, there is no separation between the sacred and the mundane. Suffering is not something that is only experienced on the meditation cushion or in moments of crisis. It is woven into the fabric of our daily lives. Zen teaches that we can find liberation in the very things that cause us suffering, whether it's work, relationships, or the challenges of daily existence. By bringing mindfulness and awareness into these moments, Zen practitioners learn to respond to life's difficulties with equanimity. The challenge is not to escape suffering, but to live with it in such a way that it does not define or control us. This brings us back to the ocean metaphor. In Zen, we learn not to try to control the waves, but to navigate them with clarity and presence. This doesn't mean suffering vanishes, but it means we cease to be dominated by it. Zen offers a profound and sometimes radical approach to the issue of suffering. While it shares the fundamental teachings of the Four Noble Truths, acknowledging suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path to liberation, it emphasizes direct experience, non-action, and the dissolution of the self. Through meditation, mindfulness, and the embrace of the present moment, Zen practitioners come to see suffering not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as part of the natural flow of life. In the end, Zen invites us to drop the struggle against suffering and, in doing so, find a deeper freedom within it. The waves of life may still crash around us, but through Zen practice, we learn to surf them rather than drown in them. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Zen and suffering, and you're curious to learn more about how ancient wisdom can illuminate our modern lives, please consider subscribing to The Unfolding Journey. Each week, We dive into spiritual teachings, mindfulness practices, and philosophical insights that can help you navigate life with clarity, peace, and purpose. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this unfolding journey to a deeper understanding of self, suffering, and the path forward. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, the journey unfolds one step at a time, and we're here to take it with you. Stay present, stay mindful, and we'll see you in the next video.